What it is, what is up, welcome back to my channel. It's a wrap, aka Yudi here, and I have a lot to talk about that's a little bit different from what I usually talk about. So grab your drink and let's get into it. Outside of me reading whatever I want or feel like reading and sitting in front of this camera and telling y'all this is what I felt about these books, I'm not sure if I do any other things that you associate with a bookish influencer. And I don't even really consider myself a bookish influencer. I just consider myself a regular person who sits in front of this camera and just talks about books. But this is my first time talking about bookish thoughts and topics, and I do have thoughts. So I have 5 bookish hot takes. That's what I'm going to call them. Bookish hot takes in total. Let's start with the first one and the most recent one. Reading goals in terms of the number of books, specifically bookish content creators read in the year. And we all know the specific criticism or backlash that we tend to see is people who share, I don't believe that these bookish content creators are reading hundreds of books in a year. My answer to that is, okay, of course they are. But still, there are content creators who do work in our librarians or do something related to publishing. And I don't know why it wouldn't be hard to believe that the people who work in the industry don't read hundreds of books in a year. I have friends who are casual readers who can read a book in a day. So it's not hard to believe, especially if you make the time to read day and night, as people say, it wouldn't be hard to read 100 books in a year. Personally, I do not read 100 books in the year. This year, this is probably the most I've read, and I read 56 books. Usually I read around 40 something books in a year, which is the perfect amount for me. I'm sure those who read hundreds of books in a year have, before they even create content, were probably reading hundreds of books in a year. But there is also something to say about what it takes, especially for those who are content creators who are on top of new releases and letting you know about new releases. There is something to say about maybe you're not reading hundreds of books, but like the nature of the work I do puts me in the space where I'm probably reading hundreds of books a year. And I don't know why there's any criticism about that. I mean, I don't know if every creator contends with, but I personally contend with. There is a part of a leisureliness that is lost if you are truly on top of your content creation game. You are letting your audience know about all the new releases and your thoughts and feelings. Specifically saying, as a bookish content creator, in order to produce the content at a volume that you feel that you should for your audience, and in order to get out reactions to books that you like, all the new releases, and maybe you want to read all the old, like there's a part of content creation that kind of pushes you into feeling like in order to create the content that I need to read hundreds of books in a year. And I feel like that's a conversation that we don't really talk about. And you know what, I always think about, as someone who has watched BookTube for a long time, I'm not gonna lie, mostly watch Black booktubers, and a lot of the ones that I used to watch pre-pandemic don't really create content anymore, or at least create content in the volume that they used to. Maybe they'll pop up and be all like, hey y'all, this is what I've been reading. But for the most part, a lot of them have left the bookish space. And also, I think also BookTube feels just a little, I mean, you don't have to upload on YouTube as much as you have to upload on like an Instagram or especially TikTok, because TikTok, you're pretty much fighting with the For You page. Like, a lot of people who engage with TikTok aren't checking your page every day to see what you uploaded for the day, right? It's whatever they catch on your For You. So you're constantly, at least every day, creating some type of content. This is just speaking for the people that feel the pressure that I have to read 100 books in order to feed the content that I need to produce to my audience. And I feel like that's a conversation that we don't really talk about. And maybe a lot of bookish content creators don't feel that pressure. And I'm not gonna lie, when I first started, I felt I did feel that pressure, getting so caught up in the books that everybody was talking about that I felt like I as well had to talk about. And, getting onto the new releases that I did. For one, I wasn't as consistent because I just wasn't feeling the joy or the motivation to share my reads, because I purchased a lot of the reads I wasn't really, really enjoying. I felt like I was just trying to feed the beast. That's the best way I can put it. One, yes, people are reading hundreds of books a year. You can. It is possible. But two, let's separate that and look at it in the context of, as a content creator, reading hundreds of books. For the thumbnail, what looks better? I read 3 books, which to counteract the I read 232 book thumbnail. It's like, let's slow down as readers. I think the reading 100 books brings on like onslaught of thoughts for me. Let me know if you feel the same way I feel, or if your mind goes into the same place. If you're all like, girl, whatever, they read hundreds of books, let it be. But I think it's something interesting to talk about, the idea of also just sharing the number of books that, I don't know if that was always a thing. Maybe it was always a thing and I just never paid attention to it. But that's my thoughts on reading goals. Do I still give myself reading goals? Yes. My reading goal is always 60. The next thing is the conversation about fanfic to publishing, and the conversation of how fanfic has ruined publishing and so on and so forth. I will say that I used to be a fanfic reader. Not that I read like Twilight. Not Twilight. Twilight was Harry Potter, right? Not that I read Harry Potter. I feel like Harry Potter was like the beginning of the fanfic to publishing timeline, pipeline. But I did used to read like B2K and Chris Brown, and put in all the 2000s R&B heartthrobs, and I was in that reading fanfic realm. And I remember I read Twilight when I was young, and I didn't think the book was good then. It was 100% a hate read. I hate read it then, and 50 Shades of Grey was not. I was like, this is not even good storytelling. I will give you my hot take as a fanfic reader, right? Maybe it wasn't the best writing, grammatically, structurally, like they were not super creative in their prose, and it wasn't giving Toni Morrison here, okay? But great storytelling. Great. There is an art to storytelling. I saw a TikTok and they were saying there's a difference between good writing or being a good writer and a good storyteller, and they can be mutually exclusive. The thing about fanfic, maybe there was some grammatical errors, maybe it wasn't the best writing, but the story was telling. There is an art to telling a story, and not everybody can do it. Okay, not everybody can do it, not everybody can do it well. So I do give the fanfic girlies that. And also, as the editor died, there has always been not great stories out there, right? As long as there has been mass paperback, there has been not great stories, But I don't think I've ever felt like, did an editor even lay eyes on this? That's the question that I have, And that's more of a questioning of with the music industry and not investing in AR or artist development like they did in the past, right? They don't have the budget to let it cook, but they do have the budget to buy it off of you and say that we'll buy it off of you and mass produce what you have, but we're not going to invest in it or develop it. And that's my concern with the fanfic to publishing pipeline. I read some great indie fiction, right? Most of the romance, actually all, I don't think there's any mass produced from like a big publisher romance that I can tell you that I like. A lot of the times the small, I'm gonna put multicultural Black, like the small little, the side presses that the big, publishing groups come up with. Remember Kamani? What happened to Kamani? There were so many books that I love from Kamani. What happened? I can think of plenty other ones. That's just the most recent one that comes into my mind. I think there's new ones now. The idea that like you could invest for a second and it can be gone, I don't like that. But I do wish that we were able to be able to get our autonomy over the work, and also be able to get the funds to get the quality editing and, you know, finishing that it needs to be the best story that it could be. This is a TikTok that I've been seeing in the myriad of ways. This is anti-intellectualism, okay, and the act of telling and not showing. The idea that because authors don't have trust that their readers are able to infer whatever they're trying to communicate in their writing, whatever motifs, themes they're trying to convey within their writing, messages. They don't have trust in the intellect of the reader to glean whatever they're trying to put down, that we're getting a lot of work that is very to the point. Instead of non-verbally, you know, through actions and so forth, communicating what the characters, you know, internal struggles and feelings are, will literally give us a 3-page internal monologue of exactly what the character is feeling, is going through. And also, this is just not human. Like, as we're going through things, even what we think also could be wrong. You know, what we think could be wrong. We could be thinking that we're doing one thing and it's coming off in one way, and it could be absolutely not that, right? And only time can tell, and only in retrospect can I really see that this was foolishness. Lack of agency to your readers, that they are able to infer. Also, giving your reader the ability to glean whatever they need, to take whatever they need to take from your writing, right? Allowing me to engage and have these complicated thoughts and feelings with myself, to actively engage with your work, right? Also, the overt telling me this is what I'm supposed to take from the scene. You're taking away the act of me as a reader truly engaging with your work. It also is an art, right? And like I said, we said about the fanfic to publishing pipeline, there seems to be a lack. I mean, there's a lack of investment in the arts right now, period. This is one that I agree, but I just don't know if we should put it all on the author. I just don't know if we should be all like, authors are trash now. I feel like it's a more complicated. Yeah, I think that really covers all my feelings on this. Let me do the last thing that's going to be a long thought. Romance and yearning. I keep seeing that romance is missing yearning. I think, if anything, romance is missing a good editor. Romance is missing a good editor. The main book that I am a romance girl. I think a lot of times, some things get labeled romance. I'm like, is it really romance, or is it a literary fiction with romance in it? And remember chick lit? I've been wanting to do, I'm sure there's essays that exist. I've been wanting to do a video about the quote unquote chick lit that we now just call women's fiction. And also just a comparison on the transition from chick lit to women's fiction, and particularly talking about chick lit in the realm of third wave feminism, especially that time we were all like, we could have it all. As women, we could have it all. And in chick lit, it kind of contends with the good job, the man, and kind of how it's like, how can we really have it all? That conversation. But yeah, I've been wanting to do a deep dive into chick lit, into third wave feminism, and talking about, in my head, when I think of chick lit, I think of, Beyonce's Lemonade, third wave feminism, and girl boss. But yeah, just let's say mid-90s. Let's say that mid-90s up until like the 2010s. I think 2010s, it was like the peak and end of the chick lit genre, as well as third wave feminism. But I'm getting very sidetracked. I'm very sidetracked. What we're talking about is romance and yearning. And like I said, I think a lot of romance is missing an editor. What makes slow burn good is good pacing. is good pacing. It's well-developed characters well-developed characters, and the ability to communicate without, again, going back to the anti-intellectualism in the showing and telling, the act of communicating intimacy and desire without it being connected to sex. And that still goes back to good, not good, but to strong, like, to be a romance writer, I think you have to be a strong writer. You have to be a strong writer. You have to be a strong storyteller. You have to be able to pace the relationship of these two people throughout. For me, once we get past 400 pages, baby, you tripping. But in a good 400 pages, to be able to pace out these two characters and their emotional arc in terms of falling in love. Like, and that's a skill. That's a skill. You know, it's a skill. And some romances, and that's why I'm like, what is going on in publishing? Because a lot of the times I'm like, this is not a slow burn. This is just poor pacing. I think Yearning is missing from romance. I actually think intimacy is missing. I mean, not just from romance. It's the way, even on the internet, the way that we talk about relationship and in love is, to me, always very concerning. I think there is a lack of intimacy outside of just like the physical or the tangible exchanges that we have with other people. You know, care is missing in the world. Care is missing in relationship. Intimacy in the non-physical sense is missing in the world. And I you know, kudos to the romance writers still writing about, you know, still choosing to write about love when it feels like the way that we discuss love these days is just not it's not the most inspiring for me. So I think it's more thought to have like a really thoughtful relationship that makes you believe in love. Which I always think about doing a series about books that make me believe in love again, as someone who is losing hope that that love might be dead, or at least is on life support. Okay, and this is my last thought, because this one's supposed to be a long video, y'all. This was supposed to be a short rant from your girl. My last thought is the audiobooks. The audiobooks is not reading. I saved this for last because I feel like everybody always brings this up. The audiobooks are not reading. Is audiobooks reading? Yes. But for me, I don't think all books are meant to be consumed in audiobook. For me, yes, I'll get the story. I'll get the story, right? But there's some books that it's hard to engage with in audiobook. Like for me, they have to be read. Like in order to truly engage and get what I need from this book, outside of knowing that Harry met Sally, I need to read it. I need to read it. I need to be able to go back and reread the line. Audiobooks is reading. And also, I don't feel like every book needs to be, some books, you know, you're getting the story, right? They don't need to be actively engaged with in the depths. Like, I don't need to annotate every book. Every book don't need to be annotated. Every book don't need to be close read. Some books aren't written for that. Okay, take what you will from the book. from what you need from the book, right? Not every book I read needs to be close read. Sometimes you're reading to be entertained, but there are just some books that I'm like, I have to sit down and actually read through, because I don't think I'm going to take away what I need to take away from the book if I don't put eyes to page. While I do think audiobooks is reading, I don't think every book is meant to be an audiobook. And that's my last bookish. It might be a hot take. It might be a hot take, y'all. These might be hot takes, but these are my thoughts. These are my nonsensical thoughts to you all. And let me know if you all feel the same way, or if you have anything else to add, if you disagree. This is all thoughts for conversation. So let's continue this conversation in the comments. And until the next time, y'all, deuces.